welcome. Sometimes a simple piece of English grammar can be way more than just a rule. It can be a storytelling superpower, like a tiny time machine you can build right into your sentences. Let's see how it actually works. So take a look at this sentence. At first glance, it seems pretty straightforward, right? But there's something really clever going on here. This one sentence is actually telling us two different stories from two different moments in the past. So how in the world does it do that? How does it manage to layer the past? That is the exact puzzle we are going to solve today. And believe me, the answer is surprisingly simple, but it is incredibly powerful. And the inspiration for this whole explainer comes directly from this source, an English course for students at Qadi Ayad University in Marrakesh. We're going to be breaking down their fantastic lesson on this very topic. Okay, so what is the big secret behind that sentence? Well, the magic is a grammar tense called the past perfect, and it's our key to unlocking a much deeper level of storytelling. Our source material gives us a pretty simple definition. The past perfect is used for an action that happened before another action in the past. It's all about making it super clear what came first, especially when your whole story is set in the past. But here's a much more exciting way to think about it. The past perfect is basically a flashback button. You're telling a story in the past, right? And you hit this button to jump even further back in time to give some crucial background info. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds kind of complicated. But honestly, the blueprint for building it is incredibly straightforward. Let's take a look. The structure is just beautifully simple. For a positive statement, it's just the subject plus had and the past participle. The eaten in have eaten or the finished in have finished. For a negative, just use hadn't. And ask a question, had just moves right to the front. It's so clean and consistent. And here is the absolute best part. Unlike a lot of other tenses, you don't have to worry about changing the verb. The past perfect uses had for everyone and everything. I had, she had, they had. It literally never changes. It's one of the most wonderfully simple rules in English. Okay, so we know what it is and we know how to build it. Now, let's see how it actually works in practice. We'll use some examples straight from our source lesson to get a really clear picture. Here's a total classic. By the time we arrived, the movie had started. So we've got two things that happened in the past. We arrived, and the movie started. So which one happened first? Well, the past perfect tells us in a heartbeat. This timeline just makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? Using had started firmly plants the movie's beginning in the earlier past. Our arrival happened after that, in the later past. The tense itself creates the timeline for your audience. It's amazing. And get this, you could flip that whole sentence around and say the movie had started by the time we arrived, and the meaning stays exactly the same. The word order doesn't matter because that simple little word had is what locks in the sequence of events. Let's look at another one of its jobs, explaining cause and effect. He was tired because he had worked all day. Again, two past events. So why was he tired? The reason is right there, in the earlier past. And here's how that breaks down visually. The cause, working all day, that happened first. That's the action in the past perfect. The effect, being tired, is the result in the simple past. It's just a beautiful, clean way to show a logical connection between two things that happened. And we see this in action in the source material's own reading passages. In the first one, that feeling of pride is the direct result of something that had never happened before, a perfect example of cause and effect. The second one uses a continuous form, had been encouraging, to show an action that was ongoing in that deeper past. This gives us the crucial background for why inactivity was considered a threat later on. In both cases, the tense is adding that vital layer of what came before. So we've seen the what and the how, but let's wrap this up with the most important part. Why this actually matters for your communication skills. Using the past perfect isn't just about being correct. It gives your storytelling some serious advantages. It gives you absolute clarity on the sequence of events. It establishes clear cause and effect. It lets you weave in context without confusing anyone. And all of this adds up to stories with real, actual depth. Ultimately, this is the main takeaway. The past perfect just elevates your communication. It's the tool that transforms a simple list of things that happened into a truly compelling story, packed with layers, reasons, and context. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Now that you're armed with this sentence-sized time machine, what stories from your own past, stories with flashbacks, with causes and effects, what stories can you now tell more clearly and more powerfully? Hey, welcome. Ever stop and think about how we actually talk about our lives? How we put our memories, what we're doing right now, and even our daily habits into words? Well, today we're not going to do some dry, boring grammar lesson. Nope, we're going to explore the amazing tools we use to tell the story of our lives. I mean, really think about it. When you're telling a friend what you did yesterday or what your grand plans are for the week, how do you do it? How do you make it super clear that something happened in the past versus something that's happening this very second? Well, the answer is actually way simpler than you might think. It all comes down to one thing: time. And the specific tools we use to kind of jump around in time with our language. Well, those are called tenses. But let's not think of them as boring rules, okay? Think of them as the engine that powers our stories. All right, so let's dive right in by starting with the here and now. How do we talk about what's going on today? Our habits, the things that are just true right now. So our first tool is the present simple. This is your go-to for anything that's a regular habit, a general fact, or part of your everyday routine. It's the tense for things that are stable and consistent. And the structure is pretty easy to get the hang of. We just use the basic verb, but, and this is the key, we got to remember to add that little s or es on the end for he, she, or it. So I study, but she goes. Simple, right? And you see this tense everywhere. This sentence right here, a perfect example. Saying people use tells us this isn't just a temporary thing. It's a general truth about the world we live in. It's a fact of modern life. But what about things that are happening right now? Actions that are in progress. For that, we need a totally different tool. And that's the present continuous. This one is all about immediacy. What's happening this very moment? The formula here is kind of like a team effort. You need the verb to be, that's your am, is, or are, and you team it up with your main verb that ends in ing. That combination is the signal that an action is happening right now. You can almost feel the action in this sentence, can't you? I am sitting, I am waiting. It puts you right there in the scene, experiencing the moment as it's actually unfolding. Okay, let's fire up the time machine and go back. How do we talk about stuff that's already over? We're talking about stories with a clear beginning and, most importantly, a definite end. For that, we've got the simple past. This is the classic storyteller's tense. It's for actions that are 100% finished, done, over. They happened at a specific point in the past. The structure is super simple. You just use the past form of the verb. Now, this is where you have to keep an eye out for those tricky, irregular verbs, like go becomes went or break becomes broke. This sentence right here, it tells a whole little story. I missed, I was, I came. Each action is a completed event that happened in the past, and it totally sets the stage for what happened today. And now for the really cool part. What happens when an action took place in the past, but it still has a real connection to right now? For this, we need a special kind of bridge to connect then with now. That bridge is the present perfect. We pull this tool out when we're talking about past actions that have a result we can see or feel in the present, or when we're talking about life experiences without saying exactly when they happened. What's really interesting is that the present perfect is super versatile. It has a few different jobs. We can use it to talk about a life experience like, I've been to Paris, or to describe a change like, she's grown so much, or even to explain why something is the way it is now. So here's the absolute key difference, ready? When you say, I visited my grandparents last Saturday, the time is specific, it's locked in the past. But when you say, I have visited London twice, the focus isn't on when. The important part is the experience itself. See the difference? And if you really want to emphasize that a past action is still going on, you can stretch that bridge even further with the present perfect continuous. This one is all about showing duration. And this sentence just illustrates it brilliantly. The action, standing, it started 20 minutes ago. And guess what? It's still happening right now. You can just feel how long it's been going on. The past and present are totally connected. So, as we start to wrap this up, let's stop thinking of these things as just tenses. I want you to think of them as your personal toolkit, packed with everything you need to tell any story you want, in any time frame. So here's the final breakdown. You've got the present simple for your habits and general truths, the present continuous for what's happening this very second, the simple past for all your finished stories, and the present perfect to connect those past experiences to who you are right now. Every single one of these tenses gives you a different kind of power, a different way to shape your reality with words. So now you have the toolkit. The only question left is, what story are you going to tell?